Good afternoon, members of the Management Committee. This meeting is now called. For those around the table, please turn on your microphone when speaking. Those participating via Zoom, please state your name when making a comment or asking a question. The MAG public comment process allows members of the public to comment on items that fall under MAG's jurisdiction. If you'd like to comment at today's meeting, please complete the request to speak form. MAG staff can assist with any questions you may have. If you park in the garage, parking validators are available on the information table in the hallway. If you purchase a transit ticket to come to the meeting, please see staff for a ticket. Hearing assisted devices are available from MAG staff. We'll now begin the meeting with a roll call of all members. Staff, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the Management Committee, I will go down the list of members alphabetically. Please unmute and indicate if you are present. Don Prince is proxy for Patrick Banger.
Present.
Thank you. Jeffrey Barton. Jeff Barton.
Present.
Thank you. Ben Bitter.
Here.
Thank you. Jean Blackman.
Here.
Thank you. Chair Chris Brady.
Here.
Thank you. Andrew Ching.
Here.
Thank you. Ron Corbin.
Here.
Thank you. Dan Cotterman.
Here.
Thank you. Henry Darwin. Crystal Dykes. Stephen Erno.
Here.
Thank you. Bruce Gardner.
Here.
Thank you. Rachel Goodwin.
Here.
Thank you. Jonathan Sheffield as proxy for Rosa Inchausti.
Here.
Thank you. Suzanne Jones. Jeff Kulaga.
Here.
Thank you. Leo Liu.
Here.
Thank you. Reyes Medrano.
Here.
Thank you. Jessica Mefford Miller.
Present.
Thank you. Jennifer Jack as proxy for Brian Myers.
Here.
Thank you. Grady Miller.
Here.
Thank you. Gary Neese. Kevin Phelps.
Here.
Thank you. Calvin Pilcher. Jen Pekorski. Bryant Powell.
Here.
Thank you. Lynette Reed.
Present.
Thank you. Bill Murphy as proxy for Jim Thompson.
Here.
Thank you. Mark Sanders as proxy for Jennifer Toth.
Present.
Thank you. Kathy Valenzuela.
Here.
Thank you. Bruce Walls.
Here.
Thank you. Paige Peterson as proxy for Matthew Williams.
Present.
Thank you. Bob Wingenroth. Joshua Wright.
Here.
Thank you. Is there anyone that I missed? Mr. Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I think we're going to welcome Ben several times, so we want to welcome again as City Manager Maricopa. We also want to welcome Florence newly appointed interim town manager, Police Chief Bruce Walls. Bruce, good to see you again. All right. Our next item is call to the audience. This is an opportunity for the public to comment on items that fall under MAG's jurisdiction that are not on the agenda. Informational items or items on the agenda for discussion and not for action. I've received a request to speak to call the audience, so we'll invite Diane Barker to come forward, please.
Good afternoon, Chairman Brady and MAG managers. Diane Barker. I reside in Maricopa County, this place called Phoenix or Greater Phoenix, until all these cities start growing so much. But, you know, we're really fortunate, at least I feel like it, having this beautiful sunny April morning, and I was able to walk and bicycle over here. And when I get over to Adams, that's actually by the city hall, you know, thoroughway for cars. cars go too fast downtown. But, and, but anyway, here I am and I'm waiting for the cars to go by and a man in a red convertible is sitting there. And I look at him and he said, "Go ahead, Diane." And I says, "Well, how courteous, you have the right of way." So if you see that man, give him my telephone number. Yeah. So I've been over the Board of Supervisors, folks, and we had 23 people speaking at Call the Audience. They weren't that loud on the referendum 479 today. They had other issues, particularly graphic sex in elementary school books that they're finding or whatever. But the citizenry is energized. Over at the city, they had a union display with music, Power to the People. This area is coming alive. Particularly people you are appointed or, you earned your way on your references or whatever. But our appointed officials, we're supposed to have respect for elected officials. But when we start getting into this term dignitary, I mean, I can address a person respectful, honorable, but remember that you're put there to serve the people. And so much, and it should be a high honor. I'm remembering Ed had a picture of himself when he was the city manager. I'm a public servant, and I gave a thumbs up to that. And I want to say that because we do have more public in front of you, and this here, Jack Sellers is on this campaign with the Arizona Contractors Association, and they referred to elected as dignitaries and all these people that are coming out for this campaign. Well, these people are going to get contracts. So thank you, Meg, for putting Title VI, civil rights, because if a person's discriminated in speaking to you, they could file, and you have different steps here at MAG that you're supposed to oversee your subcontractors. And maybe hopefully you people know this more than me, because that's what the people want. We want accountability. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Okay, MAG also provides opportunity for members of the public to submit written comments via the MAG website. Staff, have we received any online comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have not received any written online comments for the item or any other item on today's agenda.
All right, thank you very much. We'll now proceed to informational items. We have items 4A and 4B, and Mr. Zerka, if we could just get a quick highlight briefing from staff on these two items. I think they're of interest to the group. So if we could have those presentations.
Sure thing, Mr. Chair. Be happy to do that. Just to note, the informational items are there for people to do what you've done, which is say, "I'd like to hear more about that," and ask questions. These two items today are particularly pertinent. One is a follow-up on the diamond grind discussion for freeway surfaces that was extensively discussed at Transportation Policy Committee. And at the last TPC meeting, we committed that we would probably quarterly give an update on the status of diamond grind as ADOT is implementing it. The second one is MR 911, also very important to this group, which is we would give a status report as the State Department of Administration is implementing their plan. So you'll see these reports more regularly, probably not monthly, but regularly. And so we're happy today to give just a quick overview of them and answer any questions. The first on diamond grind will be Arminta Saeed from our transportation group, who has been the face and the voice of diamond grind at MAG.
Thanks, Ed.
Thanks,
Thank
Norma.
you, members of Management Committee. As Ed said, this is the update related to the Diamond Grind pilot program, specifically the expansion of that, which was approved in November of last year. At that time, there were some ongoing efforts, so we wanted to use these updates to provide an overview of what's been going on with those efforts. So in the committee item, you'll see just a brief overview on what some of those different efforts are, study efforts specifically including on the urban heat island impact, as well as the noise study. These are both pretty early in their stages, so the overview and in the agenda packet includes just what you can expect in the future and an overview of what that study is and what it encompasses. There's also a brief overview on the ride quality monitoring program. That's something that's an ongoing effort with ADOT. We're still working on developing through that. There's also a status update on the 101 Price Freeway regrind that was approved as part of the expansion. That effort is actually kicking off today. And then there's also, you'll see a handout on there that includes some pretty stark pictures of the pavement condition on Loop 202. That just reflects the challenges that we're facing with rubberized asphalt. And to that end, we'll be working with ADOT in the near term to kick off a study that looks at prioritizing which different rubberized asphalt sections along the regional freeway network that we need to prioritize. Happy to answer any questions.
Just a quick question. How much or how many lanes have been done at the diamond grind? And how many are still remaining with the rubberized asphalt? Just curious.
Thank you for the question. Are you, just to clarify, is that to date?
Yeah, just kind of what the most recent number you have. Or should you maybe
I can certainly get you
get back
the
to,
exact
okay.
amount
I'm just
to get
curious
back
how
to
far
you.
along they've come with the diamond grind versus what's remaining to be done.
There, so as part of the pilot program, which is really the only efforts that's
Right.
been completed, it's 3 segments of the freeway system.
Okay, so it's really just looking at it as a pilot program, not really trying to address everything. Okay,
Exactly.
very good. Okay. Any other questions? I think we're all looking forward to the results. So thank you for letting us know you'll be providing that information to us.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
And now Nathan Pryor and Audrey Skidmore are here to give a brief overview of the report on MR 911, which many of you are individually experiencing that transition. And this is an overview of what's happening region-wide. So Nathan,
Just missed
thank
you
you.
guys so much. I just wanted to hear from you again.
Well, with that, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Yeah, as Mr. Zerker pointed out, in your packet, we have a report, and as was pointed out, this will be a regular item going forward, focusing really on that transition to state contract service for Regional 911. Of note, in the migration update and timeline, to date, 8 public safety answering points, so PSAPs have migrated to state contract service. We have another 6 that will migrate, scheduled to complete that by July 1. So that would mean 14 of 26 PSAPs will have migrated by July 1 if the schedule holds true. In the report, you'll see on the second page, there is a schedule and timeline, so you can see where your PSAP falls in that schedule for migration. Also of note, and significant note actually, is the migration to next generation core service. This was a big topic of discussion with the 911 study committee last year. A lot of focus, energy, and attention by the co-chairs of the committee, along with City of Phoenix, to resume that migration to next generation core services, adding in features to your public safety answering points, but also allowing for an ease in transition and migration to state contract service. Other topics included in the report include service level agreements, policy routing reviews. That's where your calls fall back to if your public safety answering point is full or down. Also a discussion on host review, locating hosts in the East and West Valleys, as well as the open time period right now for grant applications. So that's a high level view of the report in your packet. Please contact Audrey or myself if you have any questions.
So Nate or Audrey, could you just quickly, when we met recently, got an update from the state on their progress. But I thought it was significant that we were able to, I recall, 2 SLA adjustments that we requested of them that they were successful in renegotiating because of the subcommittees. Or could you just share that quickly? Because I think those are significant for everyone that the committee was able to get those improvements. Could you talk about that real quickly?
Yes, they were able to change the response times for critical system issues. That's where 50% or more of the seats aren't able to take calls. They went from 2 hours to 1 hour for response time, and they also put in a mean time to repair of less than 4 hours for those issues. So, I think pretty significant benefit coming out of the process that we put forward
Okay.
through the study committee.
All right, from what we heard, that everything's are going smoothly. Any questions from the group? All right, thank you very much. All right, now move to approval of the consent agenda. Items 5A through 5H are on the consent agenda. Does any member of the committee have any questions or request a presentation on any of these items? Hearing none, prior to approval of the consent agenda, there is an opportunity for members of the public to comment. I think we've taken care of that, right? I don't think we have any comments on the consent agenda. We don't have any online comments. So is there a motion to approve consent items 5A through 5H?
So move, Mr. Chair.
We have a motion. Thank you, Reyes. Do we have a second?
So moved.
Motion a second for approval of the consent items 5A through 5H. We'll have those participating in the meeting online take part in the voice vote by turning on their cameras. It's the big reveal. And unmuting their audio. We need to see the faces of everyone participate in the voice vote. For those who cannot or do not want to turn on their camera, staff will conduct a roll call vote. Staff will only call on those virtual participants who did not turn on their camera. Members, please leave your cameras on until after the roll call vote so that staff can count the people's names whose cameras are not on. All right, can I vote of those in the room and those online? Say aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. All right, please leave your cameras on. Staff, do you have any you need to take a roll call of?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Everyone has their, excuse me, I will have to ask Jean Blackman, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The motion passes.
All right, thank you very much. We'll now proceed to items to be heard. Item 6 is this fiscal year 2024 Arterial Life Cycle Program federal funding advancement. This item is on the agenda for recommendation of approval and will be presented by, oh, there she is, Carrie, from the Transportation Planner 1. Thank you. Go ahead.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and hello, members. My name is, and today I'll be presenting on fiscal year 2024 Arterial Life Cycle Program Fund Advancement. All right. So this process was approved by the MAG Regional Council in October of 2020. As you may know, federal funds are on a use or lose basis. Therefore, this process allows agencies to bring federal funding back into the ALCP from the unfunded portion, also known as Phase 5. All projects in federal fund advancement must be federally eligible and able to obligate within the fiscal year. So now I'll give some background on milestones in the Phase 5 funding. First up, in 2003, the Regional Transportation Plan was approved by voters, which set up the Prop 400 passage in 2004. A Phase 5 did not yet exist, therefore the funding balance was a zero. Next, in 2005, the first ALCP was approved. Again, Phase 5 was not yet created, so the funding balance was still a zero. Then, due to the Great Recession, a rebalance was needed in the ALCP, and it moved $22.4 million out of the program, and a Phase 5 was created, which became the unfunded portion of the ALCP. Due to ongoing concerns and stagnation, an additional rebalance was needed, changing the total amount in the unfunded to be just under $200 million. Now, fast forward 9 years and improved financial circumstances, we were able to bring $100 million back into the ALCP in a 2021 rebalance. And currently, we are again in the position to move more money back into the program with this effort. Requests for applications were sent out to member agencies in the ALCP on February 1st, and we received 3 requests by the March deadline. I want to take a moment to thank our member agencies and the staff specifically for their engagement in this request process. Their responsiveness is what made this item possible to cross the finish line, and we're grateful for their help. The 3 requests came from the City of Chandler, City of Phoenix, and City of Scottsdale, and I'll give a brief overview of each of the projects for some more context. So first is the City of Chandler project, Chandler Heights, Gilbert Road to Val Vista. This is anticipated to be obligated in May of 2024 for road widening from 2 lanes in each direction, among other improvements, and the request is for $1.2 million. Next is the project for City of Phoenix, which is Happy Valley Road, 35th Ave to 67th Ave, with an anticipated obligation date of May or June of 2024, with several improvements being made to this roadway and a request for $6.5 million. And finally, Scottsdale's project is Scottsdale Road, Jomax to Dixoletta, with an anticipated obligation date of May 2024, with several improvements planned. And this also includes a new roundabout at Dynamite funded by the ADOT HSIP program. This has a request for $13 million. Now, more robust information for each project is provided in your agenda packet. Chair and members, that concludes my presentation. Thank you for your attention, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? All right. Seeing none, we don't have any written comments or audience comments. So do we have a motion for approval of item 6?
Move to approve.
We have a motion from
Second.
Mr. Ching and Bill, second. All right, so we have a motion and a second for approval of item 6. We'll have those participating in the meeting online take part in the voice vote by turning on their cameras and unmuting their audio. Members, please leave your cameras on until after the roll call vote. Can I have a voice vote of those in the room and those online? Those in favor, please say aye.
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 Oh,
Those opposed say nay. Members, please leave your cameras on. Staff, can you take a roll call of the members participating virtually who did not turn on their cameras?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jean Blackman, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, the motion passes.
All right, thank you. We'll now proceed to item 7, the Sun Cloud Data Portal. This item is on the agenda for information. Ted Brown, Transportation Planning and Performance Program Manager, will present the update.
Mr. Chair, before Ted starts, I'll just say we got a little bit out of sequence on this in that we made this presentation to the regional council last month because of how management committee fell earlier. So some of you may have already had your mayors come back and say, what are we doing with this? So we apologize for that. But the mayors were very interested in this data. As you'll see, the applications to you and what you're doing in your streets work could be significant. And so I will stop and let Ted take it away. This has really been a labor of love for Ted and his team.
Chair Brady, members of the Management Committee, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here today to talk to you about the Sun Cloud. I'll take you through what it is, some of our more innovative data layers, and end with a very quick demonstration of the tool itself. So what is the Sun Cloud? The Sun Cloud is the title of an Accelerated Innovation Deployment Grant that was originally awarded in 2017. ADOT, MAG, CMPO, and a slew of other partners were awarded $1 million to improve the accessibility, usability, and quality of transportation data and analysis tools in the study area.
And real quick, Ted, what is SCMPO and where are they?
Pardon, SCMPO is the Sun Corridor Metropolitan Planning Organization in Casa Grande. One side benefit we heard from our partners during this project over and over was what a benefit it was, particularly to our rural communities, as it provides high quality data sets across the entire study area. For our project area, we call it the Sun Corridor. It really represents 5 counties in southern Arizona. That's Maricopa, Pinal, Pima, Santa Cruz, and Cochise counties. Those counties cover about 30,000 square miles of land and about 85% of the state's population. We needed many hands to make light work, and so a robust team of stakeholders was assembled. It included all the COGs and MPOs in the region. We had some county agencies and, of course, our partners at ADOT and FHWA. Over the next 5 years, MAG led the team that developed and implemented the Sun Cloud Data Portal. So I want to touch on some data layers. We have 22 distinct data layers in the platform. I obviously can't touch on all of them, but I can tell you that we cover all the traditional transportation data sets you're thinking of. We have counts, we have model data, we have asset condition. But being an Accelerated Innovation Deployment Grant, we did have to do some innovating. So we're just going to talk about 3 layers that we think move the needle forward. First up is safety. So we've applied methodology from the Highway Safety Manual. to help identify areas where there's opportunities to implement impactful safety solutions. To do that, we've had to combine crash data from ADOT with our travel demand model AADTs, as well as safety performance functions. The ability to evaluate projects on something other than just the number of crashes is a step forward. The ability to evaluate on a predictive safety methodology is a huge leap forward. Next up, we have our disadvantaged facility users layer. So previously, all of our equity scoring was based on proximity. If you were near the improvement, then you got the points. That's not always an ideal methodology. It doesn't account for who's actually using that roadway. So we partnered with a company called Replica and had them run an analysis that essentially told us two things: how many people are using that segment every single day, and what is the home location of those users. By combining that with our disadvantaged community data, those two pieces of the puzzle allow us to calculate the percentage of roadway users that have a home location in a disadvantaged community. This is kind of a monumental step forward in how we can score equity, and I'll give you a small example of how this can improve our process. This little piece of South Extension Road here, previously, if there was an improvement on this segment, it would have received a very low equity score. As you see, it doesn't check any of our criteria. However, many of the segments around it do. Using our new methodology, we can show that about 75% of the daily users of this roadway come from a disadvantaged community.
And Ted, real quick, disadvantaged community is a specific term used by the Federal Highway Administration.
It is.
And what is that encompassing?
A wide swath of different data sets. This is mostly from the Justice 40 tool or the Climate and Economic Justice Screening tool.
And it's required of us to use it by the Department of Transportation.
It is. Next up, we have pavement condition. So a few years ago, MAG went through a very extensive process where we reached out to all 27 cities and towns in our 3 native nations to develop an arterial pavement condition layer. Frankly, it was a lot of work. Just in our region, we have 7 different methodologies for calculating pavement conditions. So we had to crosswalk all of those to get them to talk to each other. It was all collected at different times. Nevertheless, we tried to do the same thing for the Sun Cloud and realized we were playing a much different game. So we looked for a third-party data solution and found one provided by Neurodynamics. This data set has a lot of advantages for us, namely that it was uniformly collected across the entire region. Beyond that, any roadway that is functionally classified as an arterial or above has a pavement condition score. That's a huge benefit, especially for some of our partners who may not have access to a LiDAR van or a pavement truck at regular intervals. This data set's also very recent. At the time of purchase, we limited it to only the last 12 months of data collected on each segment. I think there's a few more layers in there that are interesting, particularly the broadband layer, but we need to move on. So what can you do with the Sun Cloud? Well, we designed this for maximum flexibility, but also ease of use. Hopefully you'll recognize some common tools you've seen in other platforms, but we really had 4 goals we wanted to accomplish. The first being we wanted you to be able to symbolize multiple attributes. And by that, I don't mean just switching between layers. I mean, within a layer, you can look at different pieces of the puzzle for that layer. And I'll show you what that looks like in just a second. We wanted to give you the ability to filter either by attribute, that is to say, I only want to see roadway segments that have 50 crashes or more, or by geography. So I only want to see my city, my county, my MPO. And finally, we want you to get that data out of the tool somehow. So we've provided 2 options for that. We can print maps, so you can include them in reports or emails, but you can also export that data directly as a shapefile or as tabular data so that you continue the analysis in any software of your choice. Our motto throughout this project was kind of different strokes for different folks, and this is kind of the culmination of that. Now, out of the box, we've provided some weighting based on nationwide best practices and professional judgment, but with a dozen agencies involved in developing this tool and covering the land area of dozens of additional agencies, we weren't going to land on one weighting scheme that was going to make everybody happy. So instead, we've developed this widget where you can change the weights on the fly in the browser and rescore the entire network in just a couple of seconds. Bridges are not important to you. You can set them to 0, rerun the analysis. If you think reliability is extremely important, you can crank that up, rerun the analysis, and in just a couple of seconds, you have a new set of weights, a new network to go with it based on your values or needs. We're very, very proud of this feature and the flexibility that it provides to our end users. And with that, I'd like to walk you through a quick demonstration. I just want to orient you here for a second. On your left-hand side, you'll see all those layers that I was talking about. Right in the middle, it's a very map-centric tool. Front. So I'm going to start a little video here. And the first thing you're going to see me do is switch this from pavement condition over to safety. Then within safety, I'm going to change it from excess expected crashes to bicycle and pedestrian fatalities. Now I'm going to switch over to our filter tabs and select how I'd like to filter. So I'm going to pick cities in this case. Once I do that, I'll get a list of just the cities. I'm going to pick on our friends at Chandler today. When I click on Chandler, it's going to zoom directly into their extents and eliminate all the noise from the map. So you get a very clean map just of the city of Chandler. From there, I can go over and I can print that map so I can take it for my report or my email. I can also go and look at the tabular view of the information. So see the underlying data that's powering the map. And here's where I can export some of that data to a shapefile or a GeoJSON. I can also go through and click on the segments themselves to get more information about that segment in particular. There's lots of data in there that's not represented necessarily in the layer list. It's a great tool to quickly analyze an individual segment. And then finally, I'm going to show one of those nice creature comforts where you can change the base map to make it match your style or branding. So that's a quick overview of how the tool works, but I also wanted to leave you with kind of a functional example. And so let's for just a moment pretend that there's a notice of funding opportunity or a NOFO coming from the federal government that is really heavy on the quantitative side, and it has 3 data layers that it really wants you to score on. Using this tool, let's see if I can get this to start. Tyler, can you start that one for me? Thank you. We'll click over to our scoring tab, and then I can go and change those weights. And let's say it's excess expected crashes, pavement condition, and reliability. As I do that, the weights balance each other, so they always come out to 100. I'm going to press rescore. The whole screen will flash for a second, and then you're going to see the updated layer with the new scores based on the weights we just input. Now I'm going to click on the show hide so you can kind of see how that's changed from our base map. Once you've gotten to this point, you can export that as a shapefile. You can bring it into Excel, however you'd like to do to continue your analysis, really drill down into those very important segments that might score well on that NOFO. I just want to leave you with a couple useful links here. These are also in your agenda packet. We have our main site. We have an information site. There's a training video. We spent about 75 minutes with all the project partners clicking through every button on the site so you can really understand what it does and how it's doing it. And then if you'd like extra credit or you're just extra nerdy like me, we do have all of the code hosted on a Bitbucket. You can go fork the repository, keep the things you like, get rid of the things you don't, and create your very own SunCloud. Before I wrap up here, I do want to address the question I get asked the most after giving this presentation, and that's, is there a plan to keep it up to date? And the short answer is presently, no. The longer answer is most of the data in this platform is going to stay good for a while. When we think about something like bridge condition, that's not going to change year over year or maybe even 5 years. However, there are some very useful layers that do have a shelf life. So we're always looking for opportunities to fund the upkeep and maintenance of this platform. We recently found a federal grant opportunity we think fits well and have already submitted our application. Now is definitely a great time to be hearing about the SunCloud, as we estimate we've got another 8 to 10 months of really useful life out of this before we have to go in there and start updating some of those data layers. Mr. Chair, that completes my presentation, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you very much. That actually was my first question is, you know, it's great to have these big data sets, but the question always becomes kind of like the life, you know, cycle of them and how long they. So today, with all those different, that huge geographic area, you're relying upon others to provide that information to you, as far as pavement management indexes, you know, bike and pedestrian information, many of those, right? You're relying on others to do that. Is that correct?
Mr. Chair, members of the management committee, most of the data comes from the federal government. Some of it comes from state sources and some of it was purchased. We're not relying on any of the partners to provide that information to us.
Okay, so the assumption is they're already providing it to the federal government, reporting it, and then it comes to you.
Correct.
So what would you say is typical? We're looking at the data today is how old is it?
Mr. Chair, members of the management committee, it depends on the data layer. This was a 5-year development, but most of it is a year or 2 lagging.
Okay, it's not too bad. Okay. All right. Very good. Thank you. Any questions?
Mr. Chair, one thing we'd ask is this: if you're like me, you're not going to be offloading any or downloading or Bitbuckets or any of that. Wouldn't expect you to. But you have transportation folks. Go back and ask your transportation leads and professionals, do you know about the SunCloud? Yes or no? Have you used it? If the answers are no, have them get in touch with Ted and he will get them set up. As you can see, for developing a CIP for your street and transportation groups, for submitting for grants, This is information that can cut out a lot of time, energy, and headache for your staff. And they can present things to you and options for you in different ways. If you really want to score heavy on safety, you can, as Ted showed, you can crank that up. If you really want to score on pavement condition, crank that up. So it's a tool for you, but it's only valuable to you if your people know about it, and then if they use it. And if they don't know that, Ted and his team are very happy to come out and give a demonstration to them.
Excellent. Question? Oh, yes, go ahead, please, Jennifer.
Is this a tool that MAG is intending to use to score applications in the future, or is it just a tool for agencies to use on their own?
Mr. Chair, members of the Management Committee, that's a great question. Some of the layers that are in this platform overlap with some metrics that we've previously used for scoring, and we imagine we continue to do so based on the newly developed layers.
Okay. Any other questions? Ryan, is that your road or mine?
That
That's
looks
pretty
a little
good.
bit
You're
further
you're
east.
doing a good job.
It's definitely a little further east. Yeah, that's out in our neck of the woods.
All right.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah. Right on
I'm
the
gonna
border.
give you credit for
Right
a
on
nicely
Meridian.
paved road.
It's our favorite road, Meridian.
All right, thank you very much. AI generated. All right, we'll move to item 8. Air quality update. Matt?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the Management Committee. As we mentioned at our March meeting, we were anticipating this meeting that the region was going to be able to have with Assistant Administrator Joe Goffman. He's the number 2 federal official with EPA in charge of air quality. Senators Sinema and Kelly were very instrumental in having Mr. Goffman come out and visit our region for a couple of days. And as part of that process, both Maricopa County and MAG had 1 hour that we got to be able to sit with Mr. Goffman and explain the challenges that our region faces. Mayor Gallego and Chairman Jack Sellers of the County Board of Supervisors did a great job facilitating that meeting, and we wanted to give you an update on what was discussed at that meeting and what we hope will come out of this meeting. So really what we hope to present to Mr. Goffman were the challenges that you have heard us present to you. We wanted to present those to Mr. Goffman as well, and to use the tools and the direction that Mr. Goffman has available currently to help us out, especially with our ozone problem. So really the first area that we really focused on was getting a clear explanation of what is going on with ozone in our region. We have presented data to you before that shows ozone concentrations in our region continue to climb, even though the emissions from local sources that contribute to those emissions have been decreasing over the years. So we have this broken pattern where ozone is increasing, but our local emissions have been decreasing. We really need an answer from the EPA on why that is occurring. And part of that answer is, hey, if we commit to new local measures, can we be assured those measures will result in ozone reductions in the future? And ozone science is very complicated. There are several factors that go into the creation of ozone. And we really need EPA's assistance and direction as they are evaluating this to give us clear guidance on explaining this ozone science so we can make better decisions in our planning process moving forward. The second item we really focused on was how EPA, particularly EPA Region 9, addresses ozone impacts from wildfires. We know that wildfires have increased significantly across the West, across the Intermountain West over the last 5 to 10 years, but it's still quite a bit of onerous work in terms of the documentation that we have to present to EPA in order for them to exclude those days, those ozone exceedances impacted by wildfires from our planning process. As an example that we gave to Mr. Goffman, Maricopa County, Pinal County, ADEQ, and MAG have submitted documentation to EPA of 33 days that we think ozone was affected by wildfires. The exceedances were impacted by wildfires. And right now, EPA Region 9 is only saying 3 of those days we think are acceptable. So we're really hoping Mr. Goffman can provide clear direction and also that they can really understand that things have changed in the Intermountain West. We have to look at this differently. These are not just sporadic things that occur every now and then. These occur regularly throughout the summer. And in order for our area to attain the ozone standard, they have to be excluded from our analysis. Similarly, we asked for revised guidance on international emissions. We know that international emissions also impact our ozone levels in our region, and particularly what we asked for with Mr. Goffman is for him to revise the guidance on how we exclude those emissions. There's some hurdles in there that we think do not reflect the current Clean Air Act requirements. He has the ability to set new guidance, direct EPA staff to look at those differently, and allow us to use those tools. The main benefit with the international emissions tool that currently exists in the Clean Air Act is it can prevent us from being bumped up to further, more strenuous classifications in terms of ozone. And that might be something we have to utilize. And then lastly, this has been talked about quite a bit, but we need emission offsets for new businesses and existing businesses to grow. Anytime a new business wants to expand their operation, they have to offset those emissions that would be caused by that expansion. And currently, those emission offsets don't exist regularly. Maricopa County has been working for years to get these new rules approved that would make this process easier. That would make the finding of offsets easier for non-traditional sources, things like fleet electrification, other processes that currently EPA doesn't allow. We're very hopeful on this one that EPA will grant some conditional approval of these rules and we can start to take benefit of that. We think there's good movement on that, but that's another thing Maricopa County has really asked specifically for EPA to do. One other thing that's not related to ozone that I'll just mention quickly and then open it up to questions. ADEQ has started the process, the public process regarding PM 2.5, which I've talked about, which is the fine particulate matter, EPA's new standard on that. They've started the process of looking at what the new non-attainment areas should be or shouldn't be. So we'll continue to give you more information on that as that comes forward. That will be a public process where there'll be opportunity to comment and be involved in that throughout this year. So that concludes my update. I'm available for any questions.
All right, thank you. Any questions, comments? Thank you very much. Very helpful. Thank you. All right, we'll now move to item 9, Executive Director's Report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, congratulations to particularly, I think, Glendale and Phoenix, but everybody who contributed to the Final Four. By all accounts, it was rousing success with some of the best attendance in the NCAA's history. And so that came from a lot of support from agencies not named Phoenix and Glendale, I know. So thanks to everybody for that. We want to wish our partners at Maricopa County a happy 150th birthday for McDOT, which predates statehood. We were able to celebrate that alongside County Supervisor Jack Sellers, County Manager Jen Pekorski, and ADOT Director Jen Toth on March 14th. We were there to celebrate that. And we learned that one of the first things that happened when McDOT was formed was the county board issued bonds for a road from Phoenix to Prescott in the amount of $14,000. And I'm sure someone complained that that was way too much money for that road. Next, April is Distracted Driving Awareness Month, and safety is important here at MAG. We've invested in that through Prop 400 funds, where you're going to be hearing more and more about safety from us in the year ahead. And so you'll see collateral from the See Me AZ educational effort from our communications and transportation teams, and we'll be pushing that out on social media to get people to stop driving distracted. Next, on another subject is the Home is Where It All Starts campaign. Regional digital ads began earlier this month to help people change how we talk about housing. We want to thank the sponsors of the campaign, which include 3 of our member agencies: Avondale, Fountain Hills, and Paradise Valley helped fund this campaign. It's being pushed out on many platforms. One of the main ones is the Cox Cable Network local ads. If you have questions, see Amy St. Peter for more details. Another part of Prop 400, and which would continue in a Prop 479, is trash pickup, which We sometimes forget here because we're busy building roads. But if you talk to your neighbors and friends and constituents, the trash conditions on our freeways is a big deal to people. And so we just need to remind ourselves that the Prop 400 through Maricopa Association of Governments is funding trash pickup. In 2023, almost 100,000 bags of trash. The picture shows a typical day. It's 1 million, almost 1.3 million pounds of trash picked up that if it were not for Prop 400 would somehow still be out there in some condition on our freeway. So this is a relatively small dollar amount, but a relatively big impact to the public for what's going on in our Don't Trash Arizona campaign. On a similar note, celebrating some milestones. On the left, summer of '88, the first couple miles of the Loop 101 opened. That's the grand opening from Northern to Peoria of Loop 101. That was the first section. That was 36 years ago. Within many of our lifetimes, it's hard to believe that the freeway system we're riding on now really started in these little small tiny chunks and bits. On the right, a little more recent, we have had 2 years of the interim phase of the State Route 24 from Ellsworth to Ironwood. That was 2 years ago right now that was being opened, and it's already needs to not be interim, right? It needs to be full. People are saying yes. And so again, it just illustrates the importance of the work that this group did to build a Prop 479 plan that the voters will decide on to continue this sort of progress. And finally, we want to recognize a group, Women's Transportation Seminar, WTS, Metropolitan Phoenix Chapter, had a celebration recently, and some MAG folks were recognized there. Dana Paschke, who was part of our contract lobbying team for Prop 400, was named Woman of the Year. Maricopa County Supervisor Jack Sellers received the Ray LaHood Award for service. Tempe Mayor Corey Woods received a Diversity Leadership Award. And so it was a good night. As you can see, our folks were there. I also want to recognize several of our MAG staff are in leadership in that, including our own Quinn Castro, who's the chapter president this year. So MAG has a long history of supporting women in transportation. Jessica's team was present there as well. MAG and Valley Metro really represent well at WTS. It's women throughout the public and private sector. Many of your cities had folks who were there. If you'd like to learn more, Quinn would be happy to sign up members of your staff to be part of WTS. It's really a good leadership development particularly for younger emerging leaders. It's a great way to get some leadership for them. With that, Mr. Chair, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you. I think we're ready for a legislative update. Audra?
Good afternoon. New revenue estimates are expected tomorrow, which is anticipating to start off budget discussions in earnest. The legislature has now taken up a cadence, having adjourned last week and then reconvened today or this morning with an expectation that each subsequent Wednesday they will be in action. With that, I have just a few updates on bills we have been tracking, including House Bill 2279, a strike everything bill regarding homeless services and drug-free zones. It's similar to Gress's House Bill 2782, which was transmitted to the Senate in mid-March. 2279 was passed out of Senate appropriations on party lines on March 26th. Senate Bill 1238 is also alive. These are bills for which many of your member agencies have been certainly following and weighed in on already. Continued conversation is expected. Senate Bill 1064, a bill that intends to expand the number of fuel blends available in the region and state, is on House Cow today. This bill includes conditional enactment requiring the EPA to approve the new blends as part of the state implementation plan. Continuing resolutions is a notable feature of this legislative session. We continue to watch several, including HCR 2040, which would refer a statewide ballot for the statutory prohibition of spending public monies on a variety of issues, ranging from reducing motor vehicle travel to limiting global warming to having a prohibition on adoption of any climate action plans. HCR 2050 is a proposed constitutional amendment that would prohibit any governmental entity from restricting the manufacturing or sale of any device based on fuel source. This is similar to a provision that was included in Senate Bill 1102 or enabling legislation last year. Both of these bills have made it out of the House, but have not advanced yet into the Senate. So HCR 2040, specifically prohibiting public monies on a variety of issues, simply impacts your ability to make local decisions and activities. I noted the climate action plan in particular because many of your cities have adopted a climate action plan, but there's a variety of things that are prohibited from being used for public money or to being able to use public money on, HCR 2050, which is the proposed constitutional amendment that would prohibit any governmental entity from restricting the manufacturing or sale of any device based on fuel source, again, has a preemptive activity to it. Again, we're standing neutral on this issue. It was included in our enabling legislation last year, but could have air quality implications, not necessarily at a local level, but also at a state level. HCR 2018 is a constitutional amendment prohibiting vehicle mile travel fee or tax and would prohibit involuntary VMT tracking. This failed on the Senate floor on March 6, but a substitution bill, SCR 1002, is still alive, but without action yet in the House. We continue to track that item as well.
That's one where there's not much the cities can do, but as vehicles convert to hybrid and electric, there's less gas being consumed, there's less gas tax being produced, there's less money to repave our roads. This is saying you can't do any other thing really to raise money for that. That's the problem there. Is it's limiting a potential tool in the future to pay for road repair and maintenance, which the state already does not have enough money for. So it's very concerning.
And Chairman Brady, members of Management Committee, Mr. Zuercher, that item also has an issue related to just the data aspect associated with vehicle miles traveled. As you heard from Ted Brown earlier today, we utilize a variety of very rich pieces of information, including how people travel, not only in our region, but help inform transportation decision-making. And so one of the reasons that we continue to track 2018. Moving on to two bills, Senate Bill 2545 and 2546. These two bills would have exempted any model year 2018 vehicle or newer from emission inspections. Both of these bills ended up failing on the Senate floor. Had they been advanced, they would have had implications again to our air quality planning and attainment work, conflicting with the state improvement plan. Finally, regarding ADOT's continuation, while the House passed 2037, a clean 8-year continuation of the Arizona Department of Transportation, this bill was not picked up in Senate committee action. We anticipate ADOT's continuation, as well as several other agencies, will be part of budget negotiations. As we have previously stated, MAG remains supportive of a clean continuation of our partner, Arizona Department of Transportation. Chairman Brady, that completes my presentation. I'm open to any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions, comments? All right, thank you. All right, item 11, request for any future agenda items from anyone? Okay. Any comments from the committee? All right, we will adjourn. The next meeting of the Management Committee will be on Wednesday, May 8th